Reprieve to a man on death row for killing a Tyler woman. Joining us this morning to talk more about the Supreme Court's review of lethal injection is attorney John Teakell. He's a local criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor. Thank you so much for being here. You're a former federal prosecutor, and you kind of have a unique perspective on that. You've kind of been on both sides of this issue.
Yes, I have. I was a prosecutor for many years, and then now, of course, I practice in the area of criminal defense, criminal law, and I've done that for about 5 years.
Were you surprised that the Supreme Court decided to review this?
Not really surprised. There's been criticism for a lot of years by a lot of people in the medical profession as well as attorneys who have criticized the cocktail itself, the three-drug lethal injection cocktail, as it's referred to sometimes. And not because, not just attacking the death penalty in general, and not even attacking the fact that lethal injection is used to carry out the sentence of death, but rather the particular use and the manner in which this cocktail is administered. In other words, the one drug that is supposed to render the defendant, the person, unconscious. There's been criticism and even some suggestion and evidence that that is not working, and therefore the person experiences an excruciating pain between the time that it's administered and the time that death occurs.
Has there not been a lot of studies to determine whether it is painful or not?
Well, there are a lot of medical reasons that a lot of factors that could go into guessing as to whether or not this really has happened. And of course, the fact that someone has been put to death makes it difficult to ascertain exactly the level of pain, or if there was pain, or if there was the excruciating burning that supposedly comes along with the administration of high doses of concentrated potassium that's in the potassium chloride that stops the heart. There have been, Texas usually does not do autopsies of death penalty bodies, whereas, say, California and some other states do, and there's been some suggestion and evidence there that there were insufficient levels of the first drug, which is supposed to render the person unconscious, so therefore not able to feel the pain that comes with the administration of the third drug, which is really the lethal drug.
So it's really a big debate over the cocktail, as you said, itself.
It is. There's three drugs that go into this three-drug lethal injection, or this cocktail as it's referred to sometimes. The first is sodium thiopental, which is supposed to render the person unconscious. The second drug is thereafter is administered. It's known as Pavulon. It's actually called pancuronium bromide, which is supposed to cause paralysis of the muscles and essentially paralyze the person. The third drug, being actually the lethal drug, is potassium chloride, which is supposed to cause cardiac arrest, in other words, stop the heart. The criticism that's been in place for a lot of years about this is regarding the first drug. The first two, especially the first, sodium thiopental, which is supposed to render the person unconscious. You get into issues such as shelf life of the drug itself, whether it's in powder form versus liquid form, and is the correct amount used to render unconsciousness. There have been some faux pas, so to speak, with the administration of this cocktail in death penalty cases. I think the best known is one that happened in Florida here in the recent past, where it took over 30 minutes for the person to actually die.
And that brings up the emotional part of this issue. A lot of family members of victims of these death row inmates say that this brings them closure, and a lot of humane rights groups say this is cruel and unusual, and that's really kind of what the Supreme Court is looking at, not whether lethal injection is the right thing to do, whether it's cruel and unusual.
That's correct. It's just a very narrow issue. It's not whether the death penalty should be in place or not. It's not even whether or not lethal injection is constitutional. It's just whether or not the protocol, the procedure used by these three drugs is in fact constitutional, because the issues that have been raised and supported by a lot of people in the medical profession and other attorneys is the theory, the argument that the sodium thiopental does not actually render the person unconscious
Okay.
and therefore causes unnecessary and excessive pain.
Now, Texas hasn't formally stopped execution since the Supreme Court took this on in September, but there's only been one execution since then. Do you think prosecutors are a little nervous right now to, you know, go ahead and go forward with these cases?
I don't think prosecutors are going to stop going forward with death penalty cases. I think that the bottom line is, if you want a stay of execution, if there's been a death has been rendered as a sentence as opposed to life without parole, then I think at this point you're going to get it. I think you have to raise the issue, unless you're, say, in Dallas County, where Mr. Watkins, the new district attorney, is taking the position that he is, that he's going to stop and wait. Otherwise, I think you should be able to get a stay of those proceedings pending what the Supreme Court's going to do in January or February.
And quickly tell us, what do you think the Supreme Court will decide?
I think the Supreme Court is going to come back and not specifically tell the states what to do so they don't become legislators. But I think the Supreme Court is quite possibly going to come back and render the procedure itself unconstitutional, in the sense that there is the probability or the possibility of excessive pain because the uncertainty of the sodium thiopental, and therefore give them some basic guidelines for the states to go back and tighten that up.
So we're going to hear a lot more about this.
I think it's going to continue to go on for some time, even after the Supreme Court has ruled.
Very good. Thank you so much for your time. Stick around. We'll have everything you need to know about today's show right after this.